World War III or very slow news week? I'm going to have to go with very slow news week. But the story from 60 Minutes last night is that Russia is behind what's called Havana syndrome, and that Russia has an energy weapon that is a laser gun. Okay, not a laser gun, it's an energy weapon because they say it uses radio frequencies or sonic weapons of some sort to cut holes into your brain. Now, you may remember the story of Havana syndrome. Many people in Havana were saying that they were, I believe it was Havana, they were having trouble seeing, they were getting migraines, they couldn't see the stairs properly, and they were struggling to move about. Many people wondered if this was some kind of energy weapon, and then the U.S. came out and said, no, we don't know what it is, it's not an energy weapon. Well, now, in the midst of an escalating war with Russia, we can rely on 60 Minutes to come out and give us the exact reason why we must go to war with Vladimir Putin and to rally that support. Because Russia is actually targeting our intelligence agents. Yeah, it's April Fool's Day, too. It's like the worst day to be on the internet because everyone thinks they're funny. There is nothing worse than going through social media, trying to learn about what's going on in the world, and having quite literally everybody making up stupid garbage. And I'm just like, here we are. Everyone's got something to say. And the worst ones are the ones that try to be subtle. Like, it's fine if you come out and say, I'm quitting being a cop to go to clown college. And I was like, haha, we get it. But it's the people who put out stories that seem like they might be true. And then you're like, are you wasting my time, dude? I'm going to go ahead and assume everyone's lying because everybody hates it. And for some reason, everybody wants to put out their dumb tweet. Okay. Well, for me, April Fool's Day is every day because I'm tweeting garbage nonstop. But here's the story. Basically, Russia is behind this attack on our intelligence agents. And, Mike Cernovich, many others are questioning this because the people making the claims have no credibility. And at the same time, we're wondering if Vladimir Putin has these powerful energy weapons, why don't they use them in war? Now, look, I got to be honest. I think it's possible that Russia actually does have some kind of directed energy weapon that can cut holes in your brain. And there's a reason why they don't use it in war, because it's a short-range weapon that only really works when you can park a vehicle next to a building. And if you're in Ukraine fighting a war, the chances you're going to be able to effectively park a vehicle, a nondescript vehicle, anywhere near your opponents is zero. But in peacetime or in espionage, easy to do. So the answer is actually, this makes sense. The question is, why would the U.S. deny it? Wouldn't they want to come out and say, yeah, Russia did this? Well, the argument is, if the U.S. were to come out and say Russia actually attacked U.S. personnel, then the American people may actually want war, and it may actually drive an escalation of war, a war the U.S. is not ready for. The United States and NATO would very much like to keep the conflict in Ukraine and not have it spread around. If the U.S. were to come out and say Russia is frying the brains of Americans, well, then you've got a problem. Either the U.S. then says, and we will do nothing about it, or they come out and say, we're escalating the war. Perhaps 60 Minutes propaganda exists as such that they can come out and say it while providing just enough cover so that they don't have to drive escalation, but can garner support from the public against Russia. Or it's all lies, and they're trying to come up with some reason to claim that Russia's behind all of this. Maybe, or it was the Cubans, I don't know. The funny thing is, 60 Minutes and Daily Mail and other outlets are saying it's a whistleblower. A whistleblower has revealed that Russia has these weapons. And my attitude is just like, dude, if this was an actual whistleblower, a dozen vehicles would have surrounded his house, guns drawn, it would have dragged him out and thrown him in a gulag. Okay? We've seen what happens to people who actually blow the whistle. Take a look at Julian Assange, who's not a whistleblower, but a journalist, and we see what happens when real whistles get blown. Here's a story from the Daily Mail. Russia is behind the Havana syndrome attacks on U.S. troops, a whistleblower has warned. As he said, the Pentagon was afraid to acknowledge the potential use of energy weapons because it risks sparking war with the nuclear power. I don't believe it. You mean to tell me that the U.S. is like, they're directly attacking our troops, but we don't want to start a war. Instead, let's just send all of our intelligence assets, troops, and weapons and money to Eastern Europe to provide Ukraine with support and weapons to blow up Russian ships, to blow up Russian pipelines, and that won't escalate us towards war? Spare me your lies. Research by The Insider, a Russia-focused investigative media group based in Riga, Latvia, reported that Havana syndrome may be linked to energy weapons wielded by members of a Russian military intelligence sabotage unit. Now, I'll say this again. I'm not going to outright just dismiss this. This is a strong possibility. It's true. I don't know what strong means. 12%? Who knows? A U.S. intelligence investigation whose findings were released last year found that it was very unlikely a foreign adversary was responsible for the ailment, first reported by U.S. embassy officials in the Cuban capital Havana in 2016. But Insider reported that members of a Russian military intelligence unit, GRU, known as 29155, had been placed at the scene of reported health incidents involving U.S. personnel. They are alleged to have used sonic weapons to target their victims' brains with radio frequencies causing symptoms of Havana syndrome, which include migraines, nausea, memory lapses, hearing loss, poor balance, and dizziness. Retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Greg Edgreen, who led the Pentagon investigation into the Havana syndrome incident, told 60 Minutes that he is confident that Russia is behind the attacks and that acknowledging the potential use of sonic weapons would bring up security questions. Sonic weapons is crazier than lasers. Sonic weapons, theoretically, what they have here, travels through walls. Now, I don't know what kind of energy weapon it may be, but using sound to fry holes in people's brains, that's what one woman said. She was suffering all these symptoms, goes to the doctor, they do a scan on her brain, and they're like, you have holes in your brain. And she's like, what? That's crazy. I'm going to be honest. If someone were to ask me, what do I think is causing people to have holes in their brains? I'm going to go with plastics, seed oils, pesticides, well before I go with Russia shooting sonic weapons through walls to melt our brains. But maybe. Lieutenant Colonel Ed Green said the burden of proof under both the Trump and Biden administration was set impossibly high, explaining, I think it was set so high because we did not, as a country and a government, want to face some very hard truths. Can we secure America? Are these massive counterintelligence failures? Can we protect American soil and our people on American soil? Are we being attacked? And if we are being attacked, is it an act of war? He also claimed that the attacks are part of a worldwide mission by Russia targeting U.S. officials to neutralize them. I'd like to take this time, my friends, and tell you, living very near Francis Scott Key Bridge, we drove by. We actually got to see the wreckage, crowds forming, staring at this collapsed bridge on this gigantic container ship. And these photos you see online, they don't do it justice. These aerial images, no way. Standing there looking at this massive container vessel. And I said to myself, this is supposed to be an accident. Look, how are you going to come out on Sunday and say that Russians are using lasers to melt the brains of our intelligence agents, but the vessel that destroyed a bridge, disabling one of the largest ports in the country and shutting down East Coast hazmat transport or severely hindering it, coincidence? I'll put it this way. There are a lot of people who are tweeting, Tim Pool's trying to push this narrative that it wasn't an accident. Push the narrative. I am entertaining this thought. When the bridge goes down, within a few hours, we have the government come out and say, it was an accident, trust us. And I'm like, y'all didn't investigate anything. You didn't investigate anything like as an accident. No, that's a bunk explanation. It may be an accident, but without investigating, how are they going to come out and say that? And they did. More importantly, you're going to come out on TV and say Russia's got energy weapons to melt our brains, but don't look over there at one of our largest ports being shut down? I'm sorry, that's nuts. Okay? Occam's razor. In the absence of evidence, the explanation that makes the least amount of assumptions tends to be correct. So let's take a look at that bridge once again to revisit this story, because I want you guys to know this too. Did you know that another, what do we have here? I don't know if I have the tweets pulled up. Maybe it's over here. No, I don't know where it is. Another ship. Is it here? Here we go. Another bridge was hit by another ship. This time it was only shut down for a few hours. But an Oklahoma bridge was struck by a large barge. Now, okay, maybe it's all just coincidence. Fine. It could be. But let's entertain Occam's razor for a second. U.S. is accused of being involved in the terror attacks in Moscow. That's what Putin's claiming. Putin and his allies and his media assets are saying we are at war with NATO and the United States. Okay, that's long been known. So let's play Occam's razor. A gigantic cargo vessel, massive, with massive kinetic energy, loses power at the worst moment. The power kicks back on, They drive the engines into full power, which causes a drift. So akin to like a balloon. When you have a balloon and you release the bottom and it spins around in random directions, what's happening is the force in the back is pushing so far forward, the back portion wants to move forward. But the front portion doesn't have the same propulsion, inertia, so it starts to bend, being pushed out of the way. That's why rockets have stabilizers, to keep it stable. So the idea is when the engines kick back on, the boat kicks into full blast and starts drifting directly towards one of two central support beams. And then the power goes out again and they can't stop. Anchor doesn't work. Slam right into it. Okay. Occam's razor would suggest it was intentional. Why? We're at war. One of our largest ports was just disabled. Vessels that were in the port can't leave. Hazmat transport on the East Coast is hindered. A massive strike. We're now looking at coal exports. There's a whole bunch of problems. I'm not saying it was intentional. I'm saying the least amount of assumptions is that someone drove it into the pillar. I'm not even, people keep saying, Tim keeps saying cyber attack. I've said cyber attack, but have we ruled out that a guy just went beep and pressed a button to slam it into the bridge? Knowing the boat's going to be fine. I mean, like the people on it aren't going to get hurt. My point is this. To believe this was an accident, you have to believe several things. That whatever disabled the engines happened, 1 in a million shot, it happens. Like engines fail. People are posting online, like engines fail all the time. Okay. Right at the right moment. Kicks back on right at the right moment. Engines rev to full power at the right moment. Steering the vessel right towards this pillar right at the right moment. Like all of these massive coincidences to make this boat slam into that bridge and disable it. If it were any other bridge, like in Oklahoma, look at that. The barge slams into it and nothing happens. And then they say in the news, like, well, you know, the barge doesn't have that much kinetic energy compared to a massive container ship. My point is this. They want us to believe the Francis Scott Key Bridge, without doing an investigation, accident. They want us to believe that Russia has energy weapons that they are positioning outside of embassies and other American asset domiciles or whatever to melt the brains of American targets. And that we only know about it because a whistleblower who's not been criminally charged. Yeah, I find that hilarious. I'm just going to say this. You can't have it both ways, okay? You can't come to me and say, I have zero evidence, but I'm telling you right now, that's a laser gun they're firing at our brains. And I'm just like, yes, tell me more about the laser weapons. Then a gigantic cargo vessel piloted by a Ukrainian guy slams into one of two support comms, disabling this bridge for one of the largest ports of the country. And they're like, accident. And I'm like, did you do an investigation? Accident. Okay, I guess. I mean, people win the lottery. It's true. I'm not saying I know for sure. I'm saying looking at the probabilities of this, it's absurd to run this story telling me that I should believe Russia's got laser guns. Okay, energy weapons. But that the vessel that literally piloted right into a support comm, disabling one of our largest ports, was an accident. How about this? The people who got brain problems are just people suffering from brain problems. Why is it that of the people who have been negatively impacted by Havana syndrome, the answer is simply not just they ate bad food, they got a virus or a bacterial infection? How is it Russia did it? This whistleblower. He claimed that the attacks are part of a worldwide mission by Russia targeting U.S. officials to neutralize them. I think it's entirely possible. Don't get me wrong. I also think it's entirely possible the barge thing was an accident. I'm just saying, don't try to convince me of this crazy conspiracy theory when y'all at the same time are going to say a gigantic barge slamming into a bridge disabling a large port was an accident that we didn't investigate. But we know it's true. That's the crazy thing. The year-long insider investigation, in collaboration with CBS documentary series 60 Minutes and Germany's Der Spiegel, also reported that senior members of Unit 29155 received awards and promotions for work related to the development of non-lethal acoustic weapons. I mean, I could believe it. Acoustic weapons are a real thing. There's something that has long been hypothesized on the conspiracy side of the internet. They'll tell you in the press and the intelligence, oh, no, it's not real. They're called ultra-low frequency generators. And the conspiracy stuff that I've read is that you can pulse ultra-low frequency sound waves into an area at such a rate that it will make people vomit and they'll get really sick and things like that. I would not be surprised. The insider report said the first incident of Havana syndrome symptoms may have happened earlier than 2016 when U.S. embassy staff in Cuba started complaining about pain in their ears and strong pressure in their heads. It said, quote, there were likely attacks 2 years earlier in Frankfurt, Germany, when a U.S. government employee stationed at the consulate there was knocked unconscious by something akin to a strong energy beam. More than 1,000 Americans have reportedly been affected by Havana syndrome, and there have also been cases of foreign officials claiming to have suffered similar symptoms. State Department of Security Officer Mark Lindsay, who worked in the U.S. consulate in Guangzhou, China, told 60 Minutes that he and his wife started experiencing symptoms after hearing strange sounds like a marble going down a metal funnel in their apartment in 2017. He said he believes that him and his wife were targeted with a weapon using radio frequency energy for his work analyzing electronic threats to diplomatic missions using top secret equipment. Other staff members said they were struck while on U.S. soil, also reporting of hearing bizarre sounds and experiencing head pain, as well as memory loss, impaired vision, and poor balance. So that's what they say. They say Havana syndrome is loud sounds described as chirping, clicking, or screeching, pain in one or both ears. Many felt the sensation come from a particular direction or were felt when in a specific location. Headache, impaired concentration, memory loss, insomnia, depression, impaired balance, tinnitus, hearing loss. What is this? Are they saying IBS? Visual. What is this one? Nausea. Okay, the stomach. Oh, the feet. Unsteady gait, loss of balance, vertigo, and dizziness. I'd imagine they'd put those dots on the ear. Impaired balance. For the first time, Greg Edgreen, who ran the Pentagon's investigation into mysterious neurological symptoms suffered by American officials, speaks out publicly. And then I'm supposed to believe that a guy who is, what did they say his job was? Ran the Pentagon's investigation. Like, this guy's got to have clearance. And he's just going to come out in 60 Minutes and be like, yes, it's all true. Russia did it. Welcome to World War III. This is the game they are playing with. Do a simple Google search for World War III. And I'm tired of talking about it. I really am. Because either it happens or it doesn't. It's probably happening now. We're in World War III. In 100 years, they'll call it World War III or whatever. Russia underwent World War I and a civil war at the same time. Maybe that's what the U.S. will see. Here we go. 3 days ago, we've got World War III looms. 16 hours ago, British and French Air Force teams up to hone vital readiness as World War III threat rises. 1 day ago, World War III fears grow as North Korea, blah, blah, blah. 2 days ago, Poland Prime Minister issues blunt Putin World War III warning. War has already started. Oh, we're already in World War III. Okay, 1 day ago, horrifying warning as Vladimir Putin hints there will be a third world war. 23 hours ago, Daily Express, Putin says World War III. World War III fears fueled as Europe told conflict can come very quickly 3 days ago. What would America look like if it lost World War III 1 month ago? Cyber attack, Israel, World War III. U.S. bridge collapse sparks conspiracy theories 5 days ago. That's just the front page of this. Putin signs decree calling up 150,000 Russian conscripts. Everyone's acting like that is indicative of a looming war. My understanding is that they do this every year. Russia has conscription, or at least over the past several years with Ukraine. So I don't know too much about how Russia handles conscription or anything like that. Considering where we're currently at, I would not be surprised if we are already in World War III. You know, it's really fascinating. At the new Timcast studio, we have nearly every copy of Life magazine ever. We have many duplicates too. So I'm gonna have to have someone go through all of the magazines, organize them by year, by month, by year, because it was a monthly, I'm pretty sure. We even have the first. So Life magazine originally was called something else, and then when it became Life magazine, we have that original. The reason why I bring this up, we have the Life magazine from the month before D-Day and what was being reported. There are photos of tanks all just like lining up in these fields in the UK. And it says the US sends weaponry to the UK to help them shore up their defenses as, you know, Hitler's invasions and the war rages on. That's what the media was reporting. Little did anyone know what was actually being planned. Storming the beaches of Normandy. D-Day. What did they report? No, we're just defending Ukraine. I'm the UK, not Ukraine. We're just here to defend the United Kingdom from an invasion. In reality, we were planning an invasion ourselves, to storm into France, to push back the Germans, teaming up with the Soviets, that's right, the Soviets, to push back on the other side and surround Germany and isolate Hitler in Berlin, and then put an end to the war. I wonder what history will say based on what we have today. It's so easy. It's so easy to look at everything today and think you know everything, but the truth is you know nothing. And what's likely going to happen is maybe a year from now, when we're in full-on active conflict, they'll say things like, we knew the whole time Havana syndrome. And, you know, the fascinating thing about World War II, for instance, is that people believe we invaded Germany because of the Holocaust. And I think that's an easy thing to conflate because we know how bad the Holocaust was. We declared war on Germany for a variety of reasons. The bombing of Pearl Harbor pulled us in. But most people did not realize, there's a couple ways you can probably put it, that we didn't know the Holocaust was happening, or that we did not realize the scale of how deranged and insane Hitler had become, the things they were doing in these places with these concentration camps. And so a lot of people think we had to invade. Look what they were doing at the Holocaust. Well, we invaded because Hitler was just trying to take over Europe, crushing the real fear, the expansion of these ideologies. And it's a bit complicated. But the propaganda at the time, you look at these magazines, it's Hitler's imperialist endeavors and things like that. And once the U.S. gets in and realize what he had done, there was an order to document everything. My point here is this. Many people look back and make assumptions about what causes war when the news reporting was very different at the time. Even going back to the U.S. Civil War, the assumption is, everybody today thinks slavery, so we were fighting. No, I mean, several Union states had slavery, and Abraham Lincoln had no problem with it. So I tell you this right now, with what's going on with Havana syndrome or whatever this may be, the reality is, after the war is over, the narrative will completely invert. And you'll probably be surprised. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.